Another Minnesota Wild player is out indefinitely, and sadly, the youth sports pause continues a bit longer. But don't worry, our guest Jude Hull, yes, of the Hull bloodline, helps cheer us up at episode 53, starting right now.
Hunters, fishermen, and Minnesota sports fans, new and old, locally owned and operated Soda Stick offers the widest variety of gear and garb to dress you and your fandoms. Toss it back old school with Remember the Metrodome tee, or look sharp with any of their latest McGolden Light collaboration collection. Add that Bardown Beauties promo code at checkout for free shipping on all purchases. Hello, everybody. We back. Episode 53, Bardown Beauties. Fred with the jersey pop. Jesse with the onesie pop. What's going on there?
Alexis with no pop, just with the black long sleeve.
I think we're all very representative of our personalities today.
Very much.
I'm bringing the very festive footy pajamas, guys. What's going on?
No, I don't want to be this personality. Don't associate me with this brand. I want to be the Alexis that showed up with her hair not done and a sweatshirt.
You be you.
Don't put that on me. Don't put that pressure on me.
You'll get the comments from me, but you be you.
Yeah, exactly. So thanks for checking us out. As we had mentioned, Jude Hull, Jude Hull. Let's get that correct. It's a very important last name. Will be joining as our guest. But we first want to give a shout out to last week's guest, Mr. Doc Emmerich, and to everybody who shot us a text, listened, tweeted at us. We love that you guys loved it just as much as us. That easily could have been a 5-hour episode, Alexis.
Oh yeah, 100%. And a lot of people were saying that too. They're like, I would have listened to him forever. He has the best stories. And I know we were talking about this in our group message, the three of us. But I mean, I've done a couple cool things since I've started in this career. But this was the most texts that I think I've received, and just messages saying like, congratulations, what a huge thing. Like, that's awesome. That's so cool. Love the episode. Can't wait to check it out. Even people that I haven't spoken to since high school, or people that, don't really, we know each other, but we follow each other. Like, I had so many people reaching out, and I know Jesse, you did as well. I'm sure Fred also got messages. It was so cool to see that support, because, we've been going at this for almost a year now. We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary. And we've had a lot of awesome guests. We've done a lot of cool things, and we've been very lucky. But hearing people, reach out and just say their support to you means so much. So thank you to everybody who did send us nice messages. We noticed all of them, and we really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And a shout out to Bruce Siski up in Duluth, who actually helped me make that connection to get Doc on. So thank you to Bruce for helping us find that pathway. And then it was pretty easy. So Doc was awesome. We loved it. Keep listening to it. You don't have to listen to it once. Listen to it 3 times. Get all the stories that you want out of it. You know what? I think if Doc had announced this news that I'm about to talk about, maybe it would have softened the blow. But here we go. Let's do it. Let's not tiptoe around it. Alex Stalock out indefinitely after a career year, kind of had solidified this starting position, really found his groove. He is out indefinitely with an upper body injury. The Minnesota Wild announcing that last week. In addition, they signed Andrew Hammond, the Hamburger. Those in Iowa will remember him. He spent some time there before going out to Buffalo for a bit. He returns on a 1-year 2-way. Alexis, that's another player that bites the dust before the season even starts.
Yeah, and it's an unfortunate one as well. Not that there's any that are fortunate, but this one is especially tough because the Wild are already going to be dealing with a goalie transition here with Cam Talbot coming in. There was a lot of talk of like, well, is Al maybe going to get some starts? Are they going to maybe do a little Manny Rolly action where they're splitting it? Is Kakkonen going to come in and back up Cam, or is he going to back up Al, or what's this all going to look like? And like you said, Al had a great season last year. There was a lot of pressure put on him to perform when Doobie was out due to personal reasons. And, the Wild had a tough year. They needed, good goaltending in a year like that. And I thought Al came in and did exactly what he was asked to do. And so I was looking forward to seeing what kind of role he played this season coming out of training camp, where they kind of slotted him. And I know that another thing that I saw, which I didn't even think of at first until I saw this, somebody had tweeted it. But Al is such a big personality on that team as well. He is so much fun to be around. Was that you who tweeted it?
I did a whole story about Alex Stalock being a character. Thank you for reading Minnesota Hockey Journal, November, December issue. Check it out.
Wow, that's embarrassing. I was not even trying to pretend like I didn't know that. Like, I seriously was just like, yeah, I saw that on Twitter.
So no
good
respect.
job, Jesse. So yeah, that got me thinking. I was like, he really is such a big personality, and on a team that's very, they're getting less veteran heavy, but the leaders, so-called leaders on the Minnesota Wild are, some of the older guys on the team, some of the more soft-spoken guys on the team. And so someone like Alex Stalock is really, really important in that locker room and on that bench. So that is going to, I think, hurt just as much as his, play is. So I'm interested to see what happens, but I am excited about the fact that it could mean Kakinen could come up, get some playing time, and possibly get that opportunity to prove himself to be the number one goaltender in the near future for the Wild. So there's some positives that came out of it. It really does stink, though, and hopefully whatever it is not super long term and he can kind of get back into it as soon as possible. But trying to look at the silver lining there. I don't know. How do you feel about it, Jesse?
I mean, I would agree. I think the most exciting, if you can really call it that, is the door widens and opens a bit more for Kakinen to come up. I know I had mentioned it last year. I wanted to see more of him, and I want to see him really get ready and take that role. And now Cam Talbot can take on that starting position, which, he might have still had anyway, right? There was no guarantee that Al was going to be the starter, but Cam Talbot obviously very capable of that position. Andrew Hammond, I imagine he'll be down in Iowa more than Capo will be. I think Capo will step in and kind of maybe be that number two. You had mentioned again, though, I think the biggest detriment is he's the gel in the locker room. He's that fun guy. In the story that I wrote, and yes, I will toot my own horn, it is in the November, December, and I tweeted the story out, so feel free to go check it out. But Alex talks about the importance of just being that character guy. I mean, he's been a backup for the majority of his career, so he's used to playing this role in the locker room, and to lose that's a tremendous loss for the team, especially when, no disrespect to anybody or slight to anybody in that room, there's not a lot of guys though that really are that nucleus and that kind of that team person. So not having Alex's presence will definitely be missed, and it'll be noticeable too. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. On the goaltending topic, Henrik Lundqvist, unfortunately, and very heartbreaking news. He's one of my favorite goaltenders, as most of you guys know, was going to play with Washington Capitals this year. He announces on Thursday that is no longer the case. He's actually taking the year off because of a heart condition, and it's not safe or recommended for him to continue to play at the time. No retirement announcement or anything like that, but just saying right now this season I have to step back for my health. So that's bummer news for King Hank. I know he was, you're looking for this resurrection a little bit for him and for him to gain a little bit more respect with the new team. And now, unfortunately, his health has declined in preventing him from playing.
Hank is one of those, athletes that you just really feel for, because they have the talent, they have the passion, they have the desire to win. Kind of reminds me of almost like a Joe Thornton or somebody like that, who's just like the consistency is there. They have the skill, they have this, they have that. And just because of the team that they were slotted on at the time they were slotted on that team, never really got to do much with their skill. And so I know that when Hank, went to the Capitals, there was a lot of talk of like, is he going to stay with the Rangers? He's the Rangers guy, right? Like, he's always been on the Rangers. Like, is he going to leave? And then he gets put with the Capitals, and there was kind of, the whole thing of like, all right, he's with a new team now. Like you said, is this going to be a resurgence? What's this going to look like? And so I was really looking forward to seeing him play for the Capitals because I think he deserves better. I think he deserves something, right? He's done so much, and he's put so much into his career. So I was really looking forward to that. And watching his video, I read the statement first, and then I saw his video come across my timeline, and it was really hard watching him say it, because he cares. He's a guy that cares so much. And hopefully whatever it is, life is bigger than hockey. So whatever it is, hopefully it's nothing that, affects his life too much, and hopefully he can get past it and play again at some point. You mentioned retirement, though. I wasn't even thinking that until you sprinkled that in the water. I don't know. Do you think it's maybe coming?
He's a little, his age is up there, and especially at goaltending, that's a tough position to play when you're over the hill, right? I mean, there's a lot of movement there, especially as the game gets quicker. Shots are coming at you harder. I don't know. I mean,
and a new team too. I mean, it's hard enough to get into a new team, but then to get signed with a new team, but not even get to play with them right away, and then have to try to jump back into it. That's a challenge as well. So.
Yeah. I mean, I had read the statement a couple times just to make sure. I'm like, there's no retirement announcement in here, right? It's just he's taking the season off.
The PR people try to be sneaky sometimes. I'm like, you can't catch me. I know what I'm reading.
No. So obviously we wish him the best again. Alexis, as you mentioned, it's bigger than hockey. I mean, he's got to take his health first, and that's the number one priority. So hopefully he figures some stuff out, whatever's going on, and you can maybe see him back on the ice, or maybe he does decide that it's just time to step away. So we will see. Continuing in NHL news, we've got the Canadian teams. So we know there's going to be new divisions, right? There's going to be a realignment. It made sense to have the Canadian teams up in Canada because Canada's very locked down, very shut down taking this whole pandemic thing quite seriously. Good for them.
Yeah. Love that.
Love that. But now it appears that they actually might have to play in the U.S. due to the provincial laws, because you have players that need to come in and get with these teams. And the quarantining period is 14 days in Canada in order to get things moving and going. Alexis, thoughts?
Every week it's drama with this. Every week there's something with these damn divisions that are just trying to get us worked up. I mean, to be fair, we knew that this was a possibility, right? Like the whole Canadian division thing, good idea in theory, but could it be executed safely given the guidelines that each country has at that point in time and just the CDC guidelines in general and whatnot? We knew it was a possibility that might not work out exactly how they were hoping. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what they decide to do there, but I like the idea of the all Canadian division, and basically what they would do is just move them to the US, right? It would keep the same teams in that division. They would just be playing in the US instead. So, but the biggest thing about that is that those players then are not going to be at home. They're not going to be in their, all of these bubbles are in areas that these teams are most familiar with. You're now going to move all these Canadians to the US, and that's a whole different setting. That's a whole different set of guidelines, like, the US guidelines versus the Canadian guidelines. Obviously they're doing things a little bit differently, and things could still change leading up to the season. So I don't know what they're going to decide to do there, but it's going to be interesting, whatever they end up doing.
So there is one kind of slight correction to that. According to Pierre LeBrun, apparently, as he confirms that 7 Canadian teams, if they do play in the U.S., the all-Canadian division likely is gone. And so there would be more realignment change. Again, how many times are we going to realign? We don't know. We know nothing about that.
I just want to know where Torts and the Wild get slotted. I don't care about anything else. Quit asking me about these Canadian divisions.
Yeah. So, but if they're able to play in Canada, naturally that stays intact. But if they were to come down to the U.S., those kind of separate, which then possibly could be better. I mean, you might see more teams and more divisions, right? And then that could alleviate some of the constant repetition of playing those teams over and over again.
I don't know, what would be better? Would you prefer to see the same teams in that rivalry build, or would you prefer to see?
I mean, I know where your head's at. You want all rivals.
Okay, listen, I just put Columbus and the Wild in a division of their own. Have them play each other for all 50 plus games of the season.
They're not rivals. I don't care. You need like Columbus, or you need the Wild and Colorado constantly.
In Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago. Just those. Let's do a little round robin. Maybe Winnipeg. Sure. Bring Winnipeg
down.
A
little round robin.
Yep, that's it.
Dallas. Let's throw Dallas in there. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, the more teams, I feel like, for the mental states of the athletes as well, it might be better to see more faces, to see how it will feel a little bit more regular, right, than playing the same 5, 6, 7 teams over and over again if you're playing maybe 10 teams instead. So I don't know what would end up being better, and I really don't know as a fan and as a hockey watcher which I would actually prefer. I feel like either way it's going to be fun, and do we really have a right to complain at this point? It's like, just give me hockey. I don't care who they're playing. So whatever they decide, it's going to be in the best interest of the athletes. And again, we're still about a month away from this at least. So things could change a lot in that time as far as like the guidelines and everything goes. So there's still, I feel like this is going to be a constant topic every week until the season starts.
Just give me a bubble in St. Paul so I can get back to work.
Yes. Thank you. That's what I'm saying.
That's all I really want. I actually this is going to sound weird. I had a dream with Bill Guerin. And I spent Christmas with him, and he was consulting me as like an assistant GM. And I was like, this is real. Like, I woke up all jacked. I'm like, I think I have a new career. I think I'm going to be an assistant GM with the Minnesota.
You emailed the Wild?
I did. Like, Bill and I were just like hanging out. He was like, so what do you think about this? I'm like, Bill, I think that's a really good move. And I'm like,
thanks for asking. I do
future
have
career here,
Bill.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of all the news that we have to report on the NHL. NWHL gets closer and closer to moving into their bubble. Alexis, are you hearing any more on that front?
I haven't really seen much more. Obviously, there's been more signings and stuff in the meantime of players signing to teams, and they unveiled the Toronto 6 locker room the other day, which is slick. If anybody hasn't seen that, go check out the Toronto 6's Twitter page. Very, very cool. So little things like that. No big news as far as how the bubble's going to work or broadcast teams announced yet or anything like that.
You're still not going?
As far as I know, although somebody tweeted and asked if the rumor was true that I was going to be there. And I'm like, I don't know what rumor, because I haven't heard anything. So if they want me to go, hey, sign me up. I'll take a trip out to New York. It was my burner account, actually. So no more news on that. We'll keep an eye on that. They'll be starting late January. So NCHC
also wrapping up their pod life, another successful pod. off without a hitch in Nebraska. So congrats to them. Congrats to Butte, Dave Starman, Josh Fenton, who've been on. They pulled it off. So it was exciting to see another college hockey teams seem to be doing well too. I mean, Big Ten's kind of rolling. So it's getting there, guys. Unfortunately, down to the youth side, Governor Walz extending that pause for a little bit longer here in Minnesota. Youth sports right now able to start up at midnight on January 4th. So, it's a bummer. It's tough. I know I had a lot of texts from my friends knowing that I have a relationship with Minnesota hockey, but it's the holidays too. I always kind of thought it was silly to come back right before Christmas break anyway. I know it's a big time for tournaments, usually in a regular world, right? You've got the Schwann's Cup, you've got all of that going on. But you probably weren't going to have that. You weren't going to have a lot of it. And really, I think Minnesota hockey has done a good job at planning the schedule after this. And I truly think that they took into consideration that this pause might be extended. So it's unfortunate. Don't worry. We will get back outdoor rinks. I mean, the ice is starting to freeze over.
I've started to see. So
get on out there. Give it a check. So we'll keep an eye on that. But as of right now, January 4th looks to be the resume date here in Minnesota for youth and high school. So that'll kind of do it for our hockey news. We do want to reiterate that the Marcus Foligno fundraiser, where you could make a donation to the Janice Foligno Foundation in honor of Marcus's mom and be entered to win an autographed jersey or stick, that comes to an end today. Marcus is going to help us announce the winners of the jersey and stick respectively. So shout out to everybody that made a donation. We had over a dozen that came in from outside of Minnesota, kind of all over. So that was really exciting. Foligno's obviously a wonderful, wonderful family.
Yes.
Marcus has been great to work with. He's been so appreciative.
Yeah,
he's been
sending texts like, thank you guys so much. Like, even when we had like 2 or 3 submissions, he's like, thank you so much. So he's
amazing. I'm like, I'm really sorry. This isn't much at all, but
he's been very appreciative. And it's been fun to work with him on this. And I just wanted to say personally, thank you, because I know that this is a tough time financially for people in general. It's the holidays. You've probably got a lot of priorities of what you want to spend your money on. And so thank you to everybody who donated, whatever amount it was. We do appreciate it a lot. Marcus and his family appreciates it. And remember, you can donate to that whenever. It doesn't have to be now. You're just not going to get Marcus Foligno merch afterward, but you can donate
at least
whenever.
Not from us. Like maybe he'll do it later. I don't know, but not through us anyway. Yes, agreed. To reiterate, Alexis, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you opening up your books and putting whatever you can, because we're happy. We love helping. Speaking of, don't forget about our partners, Minnesota Hockey Fights Cancer. They're working with a lot of youth teams around the state to raise money in the fight against cancer. Right now, they've got an initiative for cookies. You guys like T-Rex cookies? They're giant cookies. Your purchases can go toward an association of your choice. So very cool. Shout out to them. And shout out to the Spring Lake Park Bantam Squad, which I got to join on a Zoom call this week.
Yeah, you've been a little celebrity. What's going on with that?
These kids have no idea who I am. Their coaches know who I am, and the kids are like, who is she? And I'm like, just name dropping. Like, I don't know what names you guys like. I'll name drop somebody. No, it's been really fun. I've been able to just kind of share stories about my career, and then also take what I have seen from NHL guys and pass that on to the kids too. Like, I do talk about the humbleness and the characters like Alex Stalock and just being the good people, because again, hockey's so much more than skill. And, there's a lot more to these players than just being able to take a puck up and down the ice and snipe a shot. So thank you to all the teams. I'm here. If you guys want to, if you guys are really that
sign her up,
bored, I'm happy to jump on a Zoom and just hang out with you guys. So Spring Lake Park, thank you for having me this week. Appreciate it. That'll do it for our first segment here. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Jude Hull.
We've given our Teespring store a fresh new look, custom designed to rep and support the Beauts. We've got hockey hoodies and tees perfect for lounging and rewatching your favorite Wild game. Grab a mask, grab a tee, and be a Beaut with our official Bardown Beauties Teespring store.
We're back. Joining us now, his father and grandfather combined for more than 1,300 goals, but he decided to be a goalie. St. Olaf grad and one of the most infamous last names in hockey, Mr. Jude Hull. Jude, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys today?
We're good.
Thanks for hopping on. Now, I'm not going to beat around the bush. My first question, I have to come at you hard, come at you strong.
Sure.
Is your dad's foot in the crease?
Nope.
Oh, short and brief.
Yeah, I'll stand by that to the day I die. But I firmly believe, and they made rule changes that no one really is aware of.
Yeah.
Season prior, so it's crazy that 20 years later there's still people that are hung up on it. But I mean, I do get it. It's their first and only trip to the Stanley Cup
Yeah.
Finals, so I'd be
Right.
pretty bitter too.
Well, I think it's funny because that is the big reason that everyone is so worked up. It's like people didn't know that there was that rule change. So according to the rule change, it's clear as day what the answer to that question is. But so many people like just still ignore that. They don't care. They just want to be mad about it. So is that a story that in your family you guys laugh about? Does your dad still get mad about? Where
does your dad laugh about it? Yeah.
Yeah, my dad's turned it into a running joke now. When I was in high school, he had shirts made with a foot in the crease saying, I forget what the shirt said, but it was, he's turned it into a fun joke, and anyone that's still actually upset about it is, they need to see counseling or therapy, because you need to just move on.
You need to move on, right?
You need to move.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep. That's
it's
right.
kind of
I'm
how
glad we got the answer. Yeah.
I know. I had to. And for those of you that don't know, I suppose I did a terrible job introducing.
They should know if they're listening. They should know.
The Hull name is Bobby Hull, who is your grandfather, and Brett Hull being your father. At what age? Again, that's a name it's not just a regular. Oh, sure, they both played hockey. They both played hockey to the elite level, right? I mean, when did you kind of recognize that? Wow, Dad and Grandpa are kind of big deals.
Yeah. So I never really grew up with my dad. My parents are divorced, and I grew up with my two sisters and my mom here in Stillwater, Minnesota. I think when I first really realized how big of a deal both of them were, I went to the Winter Classic in 2009 at Wrigley Field when it was Detroit versus Chicago. And we just walked out to the streets with my grandpa, and I've never seen a bigger mob. So it was literally, we were in a circle surrounded by, like, I couldn't see past the people. It was, so that's when I first kind of recognized it. And then the older I got, the more I kind of was more cognizant of what they were in the league. And because when growing up, I was kind of naive about it. Like, my dad wasn't even my favorite player.
Who was your favorite player?
Pavel Datsuk was my favorite player growing up. Yeah. So, and my dad played with him, and but it was just funny. I never really growing up. I was just like, yeah, my dad. He's not who you guys think he is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you ever, when you were growing up and you get to the age where you start experimenting with different sports and figuring out what fits you, what you like, what you're good at, did you get into hockey because you wanted to, follow in the footsteps of your dad and grandpa? You wanted to see if that was a sport for you because it was the sport for them, or was it just something you tried and you ended up really liking it?
I mean, Minnesotans, it's kind of with us, right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I think it's a combination of both. More the fact that I just loved the sport growing up in Minnesota.
Yeah.
My mom she was a goalie, played for the men's teams growing up in Duluth, Minnesota. And so she was a big influence on me. It never really turned into like, oh, I need to follow in my dad and grandpa's shoes until I was in kind of like my senior year of high school, because at that point I really only saw one path, and that was, I don't know, either out of high school going to an NAHL team or USHL team, signing with a Division I team, and then playing in the NHL. That was how I.
That's what's going to happen. That's what happens with the Hull name, right?
Yeah, that's how I saw things working out, and there was a big reality check, and I had to pivot, and I made what I could do with what I was given, and ended up at St. Olaf and had a great 4 years there. And now I'm done with the sport, unfortunately, but it was a great 20 years of playing.
No adult pickup leagues or anything?
I was just going to say, Minnesotans are truly never done with the sport. I mean, right?
So I'm done with goalie.
There we go.
I'm retired goalie. I play forward in my men's league with a bunch of the Olaf guys I played with. And
Nice.
but yeah, no, competitive, like actual real hockey.
There we go.
A thing of the past.
Do you think it made it maybe almost a little bit easier because you weren't a forward, right? I think if you're a forward and you have the last name Hull, people expect you to be this just tremendous scorer. Do you think it was a little bit less pressure being a goaltender? I mean, I know goalies obviously carry an immense amount of pressure regardless of their last name, but I mean, because it's such a different position from what your family's name had become synonymous with, do you think that made things a little bit easier for you to kind of mark your own path?
I think so, but I also think just growing up away from him in
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota, I did get more attention than most people did playing Minnesota high school hockey, but I never felt overwhelmed or anything by with those kinds of expectations. I do think if I would have stuck with forward, I would have made it a lot farther.
Really?
Yeah, for someone who's never played, I'm pretty good.
Wow, humble.
That'll
Love that.
I know. But that'll probably go down as one of my biggest regrets. But at the same time, not, if that makes
Yeah.
any sense.
What year did you
It's
start
just,
playing goalie then? I mean, was it something that you had stepped into, or how did you even land on
yeah,
jumping in the crease?
so growing up, I was a really lazy kid. And at a really young age, goalies got to kind of opt out of all the skating. And so
This sounds
that's
like
kind of,
Alexis's
I was gonna say,
idea.
wait,
Yeah.
match made in heaven. Yeah.
yeah. But that on top of when I was young, my dad was in Dallas. My favorite player was Eddie Belfour, not my dad again. But I think that's kind of where the goalie was kind of implanted into my brain, and my mom playing. And then the older I grew, the more I kind of grew to love the pressure that came with being a goalie. I loved being that opportunity to steal a game whenever. You can beat whoever if you play well. And so I loved that because growing up, I never was on the best teams, but um, I always, and again, I'm trying to be humble, but I gave my teams a good
Come on, don't be
opportunity to
humble. Air
win.
it all out. It's
Yeah.
fine. Air it out. Air it out.
Yeah, so I love the pressure that came with the position.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, with your mom being a goalie and being a good goalie, did you look at that and kind of think like, geez, I want to do that too? Or was it more so once you got into that position, you realized kind of the power that you held as a goalie and truly started to enjoy that?
Yeah, it was once I became a goalie. I honestly don't even know if I knew my mom was a goalie when I
Sure.
was that young. But no, it definitely just grew and developed the more I played the position and got to higher competitive levels.
Right. You mentioned your mom was from Duluth. Your dad obviously is well known up there with the UMD Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Had you been able to go Division I, was Duluth a school that you were really eyeing down?
Yeah, I don't think when I was getting to that age of more self-realization, I think I would have just taken any Division I program. But I don't think so. That is where I think a lot of the expectations would have come. And like when my dad left St. Louis, he had an opportunity to go to Chicago over Dallas, but he chose Dallas because of that's my grandpa's team.
Yeah.
I think I would have. I hope I would have made that decision to be like, yeah, that's where my dad played. I don't want to go there. I want to go somewhere else and make a name for myself.
I suppose, does that make it easier to have, your dad was in that position, right? He had a dad that had carved this out. I mean, was that kind of nice? Did you ever talk to him like, Dad, how do I handle and navigate this when I'm carrying around the same name as you and my grandpa now? I mean, was that nice that you guys both had those similar type of challenges?
Yeah, I think they were, while they are the same, I think they were very different too, just because of like he went a lot further than me. So, but I think he kind of let me make my own decisions. I rarely went to him for advice hockey wise, because growing up, that was kind of one thing I wanted to do. I wanted to make a team without any help from him. I didn't want to even get an invite to a tryout because of him. I kind of wanted to just stay under the radar, and I that was impossible. But I think I did a pretty good job, just kind of staying under the radar of that name. And if I did make a team, it was because of me being the good goalie and not because of who my dad was.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool point that I don't think a lot of people really think about. They associate, these big, powerful athlete names, and they think, oh, their kids probably have it so easy. They've got this mom or this dad who's so good at what they do, or this grandpa or whoever it may be. But there is challenges with that. And like you said, you do want to have your own name. You do want to pave your own path, and you want to do it without that influence. What were some of the biggest challenges challenges you faced throughout your hockey career of trying to stay under that radar and kind of make your own name for yourself?
So I have like this story kind of summarizes it to a T. So after I graduated high school, I got an invite through my goalie coach to the Odessa Jackalopes main camp in the NAHL. And this was, again, back when I was young and naive and kind of a little arrogant. I was like, I'm going to make the team. I don't have to. I didn't have any backup plans or anything. But prior to me even flying down to Odessa, prior to me being seen or evaluated by a single coach, I was being called to do interviews, being asked if I was ready to fill the shoes of, at the time, I'm pretty sure it was Connor Hellebuck that was the goalie.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like asking me, yeah, they're like, are you like, they're writing an article on me without seeing me play, that if I'm ready to fill in a goalie that was just drafted into the NHL who's like 6'4", 6'5", I'm 5'8",
Yeah.
and I'm like, this sucks. Like,
And out of the NA,
fair.
that's like remarkable too, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
again, for those of you unfamiliar for junior leagues, USHL is your top tier, and the NA, especially at your time, was even a little bit lower. It's certainly risen in dominance and talent here, but it was a different time back then.
Yeah, so I already went into that camp with those expectations, and then when I didn't meet them, it was like, I can't imagine that helped me make a team, because they thought I was an NHLer. Then they see me and it's quite the opposite, and I'm just like, it sucked. And I really contemplated quitting at that after I was cut from that camp, and I'm thankful I didn't. I ended up taking a very, very unorthodox route to Division III hockey, but I would not have traded it for anything. It was great.
Yeah, well, you kind of got to move all around in the NA, right? You were in Odessa, and then you went to Bozeman. Where else,
Yeah.
or what was it? Wasn't, a straight, clear path for you, like I'm sure most would assume, right? I mean, you worked hard to get to where you were.
Yeah, so I kind of was scrambling. Like I said, I didn't have any backup plans or anything.
What
So
18-year-old does, though, right? You're not supposed to.
Yeah, I know. And so my goalie coach calls me with an opportunity in Bozeman, and I'm like, I didn't even know they had hockey in Montana. And so I arrive, and it is so far the opposite of what I was expecting. Apparently, the head coach that was supposed to be there left like a month prior, taking all the returning guys. So the coach I did end up with was literally scraping the bottom of the barrel just to fill a roster. So we ended up winning one game. My first ever junior hockey game, I let in 15 goals, and the shots were like 70 to less.
Just no help in front of you, huh?
No,
I was gonna say, what's the save percentage on that? It can't be that bad, right?
No, it's not bad, but it's still not what I wanted. But I had guys that hadn't played competitive hockey in years, and it just, I faced so much adversity in that first year. I had a game where I had 90 shots on goal. I was averaging I think like 8 goals a game, but I was making awesome saves and having so much fun. And I learned at a young age to really just move on from a goal allowed. And that was the greatest lesson I learned, and it helped me immensely in college. When we did win our first game, it was so fun. Guys threw their gloves off. You'd think we won the Stanley
Cup. Did you steal them the game though? Was it because of you? You can lie.
Oh, yeah.
No one will know, right?
No, we won maybe 3-2 or 4-2, and I had 52 saves.
There you go.
That was like a normal night.
Like a double pad stack late to keep it a 1-goal game. You just kept them in it, right?
So it was just stuff like that was so fun. And it was less about the winning and more just the love of playing hockey. Then I went to Topeka. It was a lot better hockey. And then I commit to St. Olaf, and it was, again, not what I expected, but it was so fun. I met the best group of guys ever, and I graduated with a great degree and got to continue playing hockey.
I was gonna say, at the end of the day, you just got to continue that dream on a little bit further. Not quite how you had imagined it, but you get to keep playing, which is always what everybody out there wants to do. I do have another equally important question. What do you get more annoyed of being asked? Do you get more annoyed about being asked about dad or grandpa, or do you get more annoyed about people reciting like a Beatles song, like "Hey Jude," and kind of going that route? Do you get that a lot? Is there one that's like, oh, I roll?
That's a really good question. I think I get the "Hey Jude" every single time I meet a person for the first time. And luckily I love the song, and it's one of the all-time greats.
Yeah.
So I actually have it tattooed on my body.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I kind of turned it into a cool thing and everyone kind of asks if I was named after the song, and I wasn't, but no, I love the song. And I don't honestly get asked about my dad or grandpa much anymore, because I'm kind of around the same people all the time. Everyone kind of just knows and leaves me alone.
Oh yeah, old news.
Except for us, we're here to bother you about all of it. Yeah,
that's all right.
I got to ask, you talked a lot about the challenges of, making your way through the hockey world and trying to find your place in it. Let's forget about the challenges for a second and talk about some of the cool things about growing up in Minnesota, getting these opportunities. I mean, Minnesota has so many opportunities from the grassroots level up to, high school, college, whatever it may be, that, the door always almost seems open when you're in Minnesota, no matter how talented you are, what your circumstances are. What were some of your fondest memories of growing up and kind of working your way through the hockey world?
Yeah. So fondest memories, I like just the people that I met growing up. I'm still best friends with some of the guys that I played like youth hockey with.
Yeah.
I also, again, I had a unique situation in high school where I went to a high school but played for a different high school because
Did you play for SPA?
So we shared. I played for SPA, but I went to Mounds Park Academy, so they shared football and hockey.
Sure.
But so I would go to school and then have to drive another 30 minutes into St. Paul, practice, and then drive home. So it was something that I quickly got used to. But St. Paul Academy is a pretty historic program in Minnesota, and they've been a team longer than the Montreal Canadiens, which is so cool to me. And so getting to play there, I got to be coached by Joe Dietzick, who's kind of a famous name throughout the hockey world in Minnesota. And me and him became great friends. And he honestly was so influential on who I became as an athlete and a hockey player. And he really pushed me to because he knew my potential and I was just a lazy kid. But he pushed me to really be who I could become. But I compare Minnesota high school hockey to like high school football in Texas.
Yeah.
They're very similar, and it was so special and so cool. And unfortunately, obviously, the whole point is to make the state tournament, which we never did. Just being in the same section as St. Thomas. Not that we even got.
I was going to say, I think you guys lost to Matamidi, which is my alma mater. I believe you lost in a.
Don't even get her started, Jude. She's going to go on a whole
tangent. I was at that game. I watched them win. It was pretty great.
No, it's our team. St. Paul Academy really became a relevant program after I left, which is
you got the ball rolling. Yeah,
maybe. But they turned into a pretty good program, got some good coaches, and so I was pretty happy following along. And when they did make their state appearance, it was pretty cool. But there's so many good programs in the state, and it makes me excited for when I eventually have a child of my own. And I see myself staying in Minnesota, but I obviously I can't see into the future.
Is coaching something you'd like to do? I think I saw you've helped out at the Gretzky Hockey School a bit and done some camp stuff there. I mean, is coaching something that you're involved in now at all, or anything that you're looking to even maybe before you go down the family route?
Yeah, so I'm definitely still involved. I work closely with like Zach Sikich and Pro Hybrid Training. So we do private lessons throughout the metro area. But I don't know if it's something that I would organized hockey. It's a big commitment. And I don't know. I enjoy working with kids on a one-on-one level, but as a head coach of a team with 20 kids.
And the parents,
I
don't
know.
forget the parents, right?
Yeah. So I don't think that's really for me, if we're being honest.
No, that's
I
fair.
enjoy just watching. Enjoy watching the game.
There's always that. There's always hockey to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then final question, then you had mentioned your grandpa, obviously Chicago's his, St. Louis being for your dad. Which team do you root for? What's do you have a favorite? I mean, are the Wild your favorite squad, or do you have another favorite team?
No, so I grew up despising the Minnesota Wild.
Wow, not even like disliking, despise.
And everyone that knows me knows, like, I hate the Minnesota Wild. And now it's just a full-on rivalry between me and all the guys from Minnesota. I'm actually a Dallas Stars fan.
Oh boy,
the Wild fans despise.
We're gonna have to have Fred cut that part out of the interview.
I growing up, I was always just a fan of whatever team my dad played for, and then I finally was coming to an age where I was like, I need a team, and this was when he was a general manager for the team. Okay. So I got to like meet all the players. I got an inside scoop, and this was when they were drafting Jamie Benn, and my dad was telling me, watch him in junior, and he's like, this guy's going to be so good. And so for the first time I was following an individual player, fell in love with the player. Like, he's my favorite athlete of all time.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of towards the end of them being good, and I had to endure them being a pretty bad organization for a while. And this past cup run was so much fun to be able to watch, and unfortunately they couldn't win. But I don't think anything in this world impacts my mood more than the Dallas.
Like any true sports fan.
Yeah.
Right?
How long does it take you to get over a loss or a rough?
I get like I get angry when they lose or when they play poorly, but it makes them winning so much more fun.
I was going to say, that's the best part. You got to go through the lows to really enjoy the highs as a sports fan, as much as it hurts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nothing is more electric than watching a Stars and Wild game.
They're still great.
I know if the Stars lose, I'm getting 12 tweets at me. So, and it's just something I kind of have to deal with.
See, and you had mentioned how you kind of feel like people need to get over the foot in the crease situation. I feel that people need to move past the Dallas Stars stealing the North Stars a little bit. Like, it gets, for me, it's a little like exhausting. Like, I love the tradition. The North Stars were great. They're gone. Like, we need to move on. I think the rivalries with Chicago are a little bit stronger for me, or Colorado. But
there's not even a rivalry with Dallas.
No.
Not as much anymore. No,
it's ancient history.
That first game was intense. The first matchup after the Wild became a team was intense. But yeah, it's kind of the animosity has faded a little bit, I think, between those two teams, especially once the North Stars players who were on that Dallas Stars squad kind of went their separate ways and retired and whatnot. The animosity went away a bit. But I think you might be the first Dallas Stars fan we've had on the podcast, Jesse. Can we confirm this?
I would confirm that. I don't know that we've ever had, or even a Dallas player or anybody that's associated with Dallas. We've never allowed on. Yeah. So yes, you're welcome.
Wow, that's a big deal.
That is exactly our first Dallas Star Butte. Well, that's going to do it for this. Anything else that you want to push? Where can people find you, and where can they kind of follow along with the adventures of Jude?
I'm on all social medias. Just Instagram, it's just Jude Hull. Twitter, I think it's hey_Jude35. I'm just a normal dude that likes watching hockey. Thank you guys for having me on. This was a blast.
Yeah,
thank you very much for, again, entertaining us, complete strangers, and talking a little hockey. We'll even allow the fact that you despise the Wild. That's fine. Something else that we'll move past. I'm sure our audience will well.
I'm glad we can move past.
We're going to take a quick break, guys. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, this is producer Fred. I just wanted to make sure everyone is out there subscribing, liking, sharing, rating. Anything you can to help grow the Buttes would be amazing. I want you to tell your hockey coach. I want you to tell your grandma. I want to tell your friends, everybody. And by the way, check out our merch. Buy our merch. Bye.
We're back. Thanks again to Jude. That was a lot of fun. I mean, it's got to be crazy coming from a hockey family it's not just any normal hockey family. Like, The Hulls are a pretty
Yeah,
big
pretty
deal
big.
across the
Just a couple
nation.
really good athletes there.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, for his mom to be an
Uh-huh.
outstanding athlete too, like, I mean, that's pretty fun. That's a pretty neat. So thank you again to Jude for joining us and sharing some tales about family life and hockey prodigies. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, that was it's always cool because you think of those big names and then it's like you forget that they probably have kids and stuff too, and it's like I wonder what their life is like. So now you know a little bit about what their life is like.
Exactly, because we'll never know. My parents, my kids will never know that either. They'll be like, oh, I don't know. My mom had some annoying podcast when she was younger. At some point in time, it'll be $1 million podcast by the time those kids
put
are in
some
college.
respect on the podcast. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. All right, so now our new segment 3, Up for Debate, where we get to engage with our Twitter followers and audience on some different various subjects. I went a little out of the box with this week's Up for Debate.
making me think hard. Jeez.
I noticed a lot of people didn't really engage in it, but I was just trying to mix it up a little bit. Like we just do so much like wild players, which obviously is very successful. But I kind of wanted to throw it back. I think Doc got me thinking about old school teams. And so I wanted to throw it back to which professional franchise would you bring back to Minnesota? And not the North Stars. We're not talking about an NHL team. I mean, we're talking non-NHL affiliated. So I went with some IHL, WHA squads, with the Minneapolis Millers, who were around in the 50s. You've got the St. Paul Fighting Saints, who are legendary, and then the Minnesota Moose, also legendary. Alexis, what do you pick?
Okay, I'm a little torn because, and I tweeted this, but I feel like to stick to my brand, I have to go with the Moose because that's Marcus Foligno's namesake. But I do feel like the Moose were at a time when Minnesotans were very, very angry still about things going on in the hockey world. Having the North Stars just being taken away from them, that wound is obviously still really fresh. So I feel like, and they were only around for a couple years. So I feel like that's a hard thing to kind of grab onto because you're still a little hurt about what happened. So my official answer, I'm sorry, Marcus Foligno / Moose. I'm going to have to go with the St. Paul Fighting Saints. And the reason I'm going with them is because I think they have the coolest history of those 3 teams and the jerseys. Can we talk about the jerseys? I mean, those are some of the coolest jerseys. My dad has a St. Paul Fighting Saints jersey, and the blue and the yellow. And you all know I hate the color yellow, but there's like just enough in the jersey. So I'm going to go with the St. Paul Fighting Saints because of history and because of the jerseys.
Jerseys are iconic. You can't go wrong. And for most of you got it right. Shout out to Tim McNiff and everybody else who had tweeted at me. That was Bruce Boudreau in the St. Paul Fighting Saints jersey. I don't know if you guys remember when he was introduced as head coach, the Minnesota Wild actually gave him a St. Paul Fighting Saints jersey in addition to the Minnesota Wild jersey.
Jesse's always getting sneaky with these. You think she didn't know what she was doing?
I always know what I'm doing, guys. I always know what I'm doing. But no, I agree. I'm torn because I love the Fighting Saints.
Yeah.
But the Moose were kind of the team that was around when I was a kid. Like I really remember the Moose being a thing. I had a starter jacket, I think, if I remember correctly, between that and the Charlotte Hornets. Those are my 2 starter jackets that I had. Right. But yeah, so for different sake, let's go. I'm going to go with the Moose because I think they're more recent. They were just a little bit, they live in my head a little bit stronger because I actually got to watch them, got to see that. So Minnesota Moose. No, I feel bad. The Millers, I didn't really know a whole lot about.
Me neither. And I mean, I love like the old history like that. So it was kind of cool, like thinking about it. I'm like, oh yeah, like that, back in the 50s. But I just, they're all, you could all make an argument for each of them. They all have a different history and different jerseys and different purpose for kind of being there. And so, yeah, I mean, I would go with the St. Paul Fighting Saints. Moose are a close second for me. No disrespect to the Millers though. We love them too.
I mean, they're Minneapolis. I'm a St. Paul girl. Sorry. No, it's just how I am. It's how
That's
I
fair.
roll.
That's
what
fair.
I do. A lot of you guys agreed with the St. Paul Fighting Saints. So thank you for everybody who weighed in, had a little comment about that. We appreciate it. We'll keep those going. Certainly, if you have ideas for an Up for Debate topic, hit us up. Let us know. Be sure to engage in those every Wednesday when we drop them. We love doing it. It's kind of fun to stir the pot a little bit. We like to get you chatting. So that'll do it for this week's episode. Again, thank you to Jude. Thank you to Soda Stick. Thank you to Talk North. Thank you to Fred. Thank you to Alexis. Thank you to all of you for keeping this thing going as we approach our 1 year, which is next week. So we'll have some pretty cool stuff coming out for you for that in celebration of the holidays too. I hope everyone has a happy holiday. Merry Christmas. We'll be back again next week. Be sure to rate, subscribe, share, all of that good stuff. That's going to do it. Have a good one.